All right, everybody, welcome to the Mindless Chatter podcast. Something new this time around. We have an in-studio guest we are thrilled to have with us, the co-author of the Sideline, the Clipboard, and the Whistle. Kevin Reid's in the house. What's up, buddy?
Hey, everyone. Good to see you. Yep. Thank you for having me. Yo.
So this was an unbelievably interesting read, and it really follows your journey with your daughter from really at a very young age. Playing soccer all the way up to D1 college. I got a ton of questions for you, but let's just start at the beginning. What inspired you to take on writing this book?
She was 4 years old, I think. She was playing rec soccer in where we live in Connecticut, and these kids are all running around, girls and boys. It's co-ed at that age, right? It's real informal. They're just trying to get them on the field. I had no idea what I was getting into. She had no idea, right? I mean, she was like, what's soccer? I don't understand why you're leaving me here. So we're all watching, and as a guy, several guys who I met, fathers of kids on the team, first time I've met them, right? Kind of new to town. You meet a lot of friends through your kids, right? That tends to be,
right,
the rest of your life once they're, 10, 14, 18 years old. And I swear to God, these girls are a year or two, maybe 3 out of diapers. Right? He goes, my daughter, D1 athlete, right there. She's going, and I looked at him and I went,
wow.
Not really sure how that's going to work. I mean, how do you know this?
Yeah.
My daughter's playing with her hair, playing with the mud on the ground, wondering why she has cleats on. And this guy's got her already pegged, D1 athlete. From that day, I go, I'm probably going to write a book on this if Max stays. So, yeah.
Wow. So the, as I said before we kind of went on air here, that I noticed right away that there was this great attention to detail about grabbing the juice boxes, about all the little intricate.
Easy for you to say.
I know. I can't say that word. Let me try that again.
Intricacies.
That's what I'm saying. All the little things.
We'll dub that
There you
in.
go. I like that.
We'll dub that in.
Perfect.
Yeah, so just all those little things that are a part of growing up as they're going through, the process there.
Sure.
And so I really found that reflective of the passion that you had in telling the story. How did you hook up with Coach Shannon? Like, how did that all come about?
I think whether you're a coach, you're an athletic director, you're a parent, a ref, there's a community, right, in any sport. By the way, this book is not just about soccer. It's really about any sport or any extracurricular activity that your kid could do. So Shannon and I think we're kind of peas in a pod. We're very similar. She was the new Canaan coach. So FCAC is the Fairfield County Interscholastic Athletic Conference. It's in the west side of Connecticut. We all know each other, right? And my daughter coaches a little bit too going up. Shannon was coaching in New Canaan. As Fordham wasn't recruiting her, so I'm going to try to bend into this from the left, right? So I had spoken to Shannon quite a bit. And when Fordham ended up recruiting her and kind of pulled her away from some other schools that were looking at her, I looked at Shannon and I said, "Are all the parents crazy? Like, right? Like you and I used to talk on the sideline because you loved watching my daughter play and coaching against her. And my daughter was tough to coach against when she played in high school because she had just a lethal set kick, and I think she had something like 11 goals from set senior year. So the joke amongst the FCI coaches was always, don't commit, don't get a penalty anywhere within 35 yards of the net. It's going in. So Shannon knew that, I think. So enough embellishing about my daughter. We could do that later. And we just kind of talked when one of the first ID clinics, Shannon and I were just at for Fordham. And it stemmed from that. Or is everybody as crazy as I think they are? I said, because I'm sitting on 15 years of content in this book, or in my head.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm thinking about writing a book. I got an idea. If you think the same thing, I'm thinking of doing this duality, and you swinging from the coach's direction, I'll swinging from the father's direction, and see what we could put up with. And it sat, resonated, hydrated, whatever, for like 6 months, and then I just started putting pen to paper or keys, fingers to keys.
Yeah.
And it was just from a mutual angle, mutual experiences, but told from two different angles, and that's how we got together.
I think it's a great aspect of the book. I don't know if you guys got this sense, but there was one part where like you guys are just like kicking it back and forth, and she was kind of like, all right, back to you, Kev. And you're like, all right, thanks, coach. And I just thought, oh yeah, I'm in this. Like I'm along for the ride here. Let's go. So I felt like it really engages the reader, that perspective with both of you guys telling the story. It was really neat.
Yeah, I didn't even think we'd have that effect. You're not the only person that has said that.
Yeah.
I think people like that casual, just back and forth. They want to be part of it. They felt they were actually in the conversation. And we didn't want to make this. I started getting in the first couple of chapters, there's a lot of psychology and there's a lot of references. And I kind of slowly stopped that. I wanted to create a foundation early on, but not carry that all the way through. It became more about the experience and what you can do about it as a parent. Can't just keep quoting psychology books and journals.
Yeah, because dummies like me get lost.
Well, that's an education.
Yeah.
So I like to say I love to read. I'm a big reader. I wasn't looking forward to reading this book because this was my son is older. He played a lot of sports. He's actually, as an adult, his job is in the sports world. And but I thought, my kid's already grown up, and I thought that you were going to be one of those parents. This is how you get your kid to this level, and I thought you were going to be one of those crazy parents that I've run into. I
still may be crazy, but just not for the reason.
In another way, that think because maybe one person from your hometown, got drafted into a major league, that your kid's going to do that, and I've seen it. I've seen a lot of it, and parents that are pushing their kids because it's their dream, and you really hooked me, I think, early on when you started talking about it being their journey, because I was catching all of these things that very much resonated with the kind of parent that I've always tried to be, and it really, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if your child is an athlete or not. There were so many amazing parenting techniques and strategies that I saw, that I read in your book. So I really enjoyed it.
I appreciate that, Heidi. Yeah, I failed a lot. That's another reason for the book, that it was a cathartic outstretching of my emotion, and there was a little bit of a selfish, like, hey, Mackenzie, right, my daughter, I'll call her Mac for the rest of this. That's what we call her. So it was kind of an apology letter to some degree. I made a mistake. I made mistakes all the way through. I mean, but do you learn from them? Can you teach other people about them so they don't make the same mistakes, or at least they think twice before they do something? And I think there's parts of the book that every sports parent knows, and every sports kid, any kid who played sports, that ride home, right after the game, kitchen table that night, going out to McDonald's after, whatever, the ride to the game. Those are lethal places for a kid.
That was a big takeaway for me, is the car rides.
Me too.
And how impactful those moments are in the whole process. Yeah.
I really wish I had this book back,
when Terrence was younger.
Terrence was young, because I'm just seeing myself making the car ride is the biggest one that really stuck out to me.
Yeah.
Just I thought I was helping him by saying, what happened here, or just. So, it would have been better let him sit in it, like you say, I think in the book, let him sit in it before I let him talk to me first. It would have been, I think, huge. I really wish I had.
There's really no such thing as a perfect parent. So, like what you were saying, like everybody falls short of even if you're completely tuned in and you think you're being as supportive as you can be, it was great to see those, hear from you, the psychology of what it says to them if you react a certain way. And I think the part about, doing better, thinking about it and understanding, this might have the adverse effect that I think it does, and then trying to do better the next time. To me, that's good parenting.
Well, and I think it's an interesting, there's some duality there as well with the irony is, what are you trying to teach the kid? What are you trying to coach the kid? What is the coach trying to coach the kid? Be better the next day. So when you step on that field, you go over the white line, right, which is the second part of the book. Or the opening scene, is that white line means everything to that kid. That's their safe space. So they may be in a violent world in the sports environment. They may be in their own head psychologically, emotionally, physically, but that is their world. And when they step over that white line, you're not the protagonist of your kid's story. And if you're trying to teach that kid to be better, you could do that by being a guider. You can do that from the side. Think about how a coach coaches, which is another reason why I wanted a coach's lens into this, which I thought was very important. But take your own advice, right? Like, if you're not better the next day, and you can, and by the way, observe, can you see your kid suffering? Why is the kid suffering? Not because they didn't make that goal. They'll deal with that. They're a competitor at any level, whether it's informal, they're just having fun, or they're on a D1 or professional pursuit. They'll deal with that. What they can't deal with is the two people that love them the most, or the one, one parent, two parents, whatever, the rest of their extended family is proverbially up their ass over stuff they just couldn't do anything about. And meanwhile, you're doing it the next time and the next time and the next time. You're not the protagonist of your kid's story.
Something that I really, I made a note about is, these are really personal stories, and there's a lot of, it's written with a lot of like vulnerability by you, which I feel like there has to be a certain degree of difficulty on your part.
Yeah, you don't expect it, do you?
Yeah.
Some of the guys that know me real well, they'll just be like, what?
Yep.
Not only is it not expected in a way, but it's also, I think, what makes the book so good is that...
The honesty?
Yeah, the honesty that involves. How difficult was it for you to be that kind of vulnerable when you're writing it?
I will say not difficult.
Really?
I was ready.
Yeah.
She was out of the house. I was ready. I was dealing with a lot of that too. So I wrote this book. She was a freshman. I'm acting like this was years ago. This was like months ago. So I wrote the book 4 months.
Wow.
Start to finish. The first time I put a finger to a key to it getting published was 4 months, give or take a week. But I had already planned on writing and already was storing stories and thinking about this. And Steve, you know me real well, right? I'm always reflecting. I'm always trying to figure out what's going on. How am I thinking of something? I look at myself first. I think that's another thing people don't do a lot. They point fingers, right? They don't introspectively think. Self-reflection, situational awareness. Those things are incredibly important. And I was ready to write the book. So at that point, the debate and the legislation of my own honesty was over.
Yeah.
Right. So it was just
right.
So my poor Mac. Not my daughter, my computer.
Well, so when you decide you obviously have your own experiences. Mm-hmm. You lived it, you went through it. What I found fascinating was the way you weaved in science and you cited studies while keeping this very conversational and very heartfelt. How long did it take you to do that research? Was there a lot that went into the research of the scientific studies? Because I thought it was fascinating.
So this is where AI helps. So not that AI wrote the book, but AI can absolutely help you do research. So, and I think, Sid, you wanted to talk about maybe how I constructed the book and the process. Yeah. So maybe I'll leave some of that for that. But it was actually pretty easy to frame and prompt based on what I was writing. I would take excerpts of my paragraphs and go, is there anything out there that frames this, that discusses this, that ponders this, that discusses this from some type of angle? And then you just so research yields more research so you just go into this like rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And then you got to parse it out, right? Then you have to truncate, you have to parse, you have to start going, well, wait, this is not, you just don't chuck in something to chuck it in. It's got to be relevant to the argument. And then you have to look at it in totality, how you have to build the story, even though it's non-fiction, you have to build the story. So you have to start at an angle, you have to start at a foundation, and then you're building on top of that. So AI helped a lot with that. It helped me take the writing that I did and structure components around that. I'm a psych major as well. I like psychology.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah. I
Stop bragging.
You can tell.
Yeah.
If I'm understanding you right, it's almost like a reverse engineering sort of exercise. Yeah.
That part of the book was a reverse engineering exercise. Yeah. And as if I was writing a research paper.
All right. Let's talk about the law of conservation of energy, which I found was a really cool concept that, you could have wrote just a book on that. I felt.
No, I'm glad you picked up on that. There's a few of those throughout the book. Some are just widely known theories or pragmatic approaches that have been around for hundreds of, if not thousands of years. Others I coined or came up with, but even those are, at least conceptually, have been around. So the law of conservation of energy. I'm a real big believer of vibration, of what you set out is what you get back. Those theories are proven. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Energy is not lost. It is dissipated. It dissolves or goes into something else. So I saw, and this is not necessarily the structure of the process, but it's how I got to the content of the book. I saw a lot of people put out negative energy. I saw when I put out negative energy. The best thing you can do as a human, and animals do it, you observe. You observe, you learn through observation. And I think it's incredibly important to look at what works and what doesn't work, right? And when you see negative doesn't work, rarely does it work. You cannot fight, you cannot push against something that's going to push back at you. Look at karma. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Objects that stay in motion tend to stay in motion. An unstoppable, object cannot meet an immovable object, unstoppable force. Who wins?
Right.
No one. So I thought the law of conservation of energy, and I debated whether or not I was going to, because that's a long term, right? Conservation of energy, theories of energy. But I said, you know what? That theory or that actual proof needs to be said. It has to apply here throughout the book, because when you're familiar with the book now, it builds these stories and these concepts from a foundation to the roof. And it ends with really the law of conservation of energy told through the Sherpa parenting, told through those things. And I just thought it was incredibly important to deliver a message over and over again, unwavering, that when you put out negative energy, and by the way, you have to be observant and self-aware of what negative energy even is. Like narcissistic sociopaths don't even know what negative energy is. They just do it. Right. So they think they're being positive, right? They think sometimes maybe a little naivete. I'm thinking I'm helping. I'm not really. No, it's negative energy. That's going to come back to you, whether it's in a year, it's in 5 days, it's in 10 years. It's your kid not having a relationship. I mean, the cover is, we actually were going to call it a couple of different things, but it's regret, right? Like a lot of times regret is built from the energy you put out. Well, why do you have regret? Because the energy that's coming back to you is making you at some point think, I probably did something wrong. I regret this. That's energy. That your own mental capacity and the way you think is energy.
Yeah.
So that I just felt that was just such an important thing. And I agree with you. We could do a podcast just on law of conservation of energy and parenting.
Right.
That was one of the things that hooked me, is because back to what you were saying before, when you're blaming someone else, and I've seen that a lot in youth athletics, where it's the coach's fault. You see it in education. It's the teacher's fault, or it's the coach's fault, or it's this other kid's fault. And that's not a growth mindset. If you want them to go back and do better the next day, they have to think about it. They have to process it in their own way. And as a parent, you were doing that as well. And the very best way to teach is by example. So you were doing that. I mean, it all just made such perfect sense to me, laid out that way.
Yeah, the growth mindset is, I urge everybody, all your listeners, read about the growth mindset. It's brilliant, right? Don't look back, go forward, growth. Each day is better than the day before. And there's a lot of other concepts to it that I'm not getting involved in. But at the end of I didn't tell the story because I think my daughter would have killed me. There is obviously.
And she could, by the way.
She could.
Let's get that established.
Years of jiu-jitsu. So this book was originally going to be about how to navigate early on, like when she was 12 or 13. I shifted away from what I said to you all to actually, I could probably write a book on just navigating the world of youth soccer. So just purely like, what is ECNL? What is Girls Academy or Academy? What is AYSO? What are club teams? What are town teams? What's NPL? What's all these different EDP? And they all mean something. They're all at different levels. And there's a lot of fact to it. There's a lot of actual specific things that make one better than another, and what does better mean, right? Because you could argue just the kid having fun is better, right? But if the goal is to become a D1 athlete or play for the U.S. women's team or go on to professional, you got to kind of take a certain track. So I was going to do this. So my daughter was going to kill me if I put this in, but it was part of growth mindset, energy, and keeping focus, and never lose focus, and never have tenacity and grit, and never lose faith or sight of your goal. And your behaviors and your actions have to be commensurate to achieving your goal. So if you have a lofty goal like D1, that what you do on a day-to-day basis has to be commensurate. You can't. It's not the same thing as just participating in a rec league.
Right.
So she didn't for 3 years. She did not make the ECNL team at CFC. She didn't. She tried out 3 times. So I know why she didn't make it. I tried to coach her with those things. She didn't have it in her like at that time. Oddly enough, the coach at CFC that declined her the first 2 years is her college coach.
Wow.
And she kept at it. And my wife and I didn't MF CFC. Oh, CFC, you hear this all the time, which then flipped me. And I said, I'm not writing Navigating You. I am going back to the original purpose of the book, because I listened to a lot of parents whose kids didn't make it. It was the coach's fault. It was CFC's fault. Your job is to coach your kid right now, parent your kid, and teach them. You don't like it, be better. If that's still your goal and that's what you want to do, be better. And here's how we can be better. I'll support you in that. These are the resources I can get you. And that's what I did with Mackenzie. And I'll tell you, she came out the 3rd year. She ended up making the team under it, coached by an absolutely fantastic guy. I won't name names. But it was her coach when she was like 13, and he got everything out of her. She was ready. A lot of things to parents, don't live vicariously through your child. Your kid may not be ready yet. Like they all grow at different ages, right? They mature. They have different physical abilities, different mental abilities. They may not even be understanding what you're yelling at them or trying to convince them to do in the car. They may just literally not grasp it. Their cerebral cortex, their brains are not functional yet. They're not fully developed. I'm pretty sure some people in this room, right, like me included, may not. Right? I'm looking at some.
Here we go. Here we go.
Right. All right. But ding. So and we're 50 plus.
Some people just don't react to that.
Yeah.
Their brain shuts down.
Yep.
If you throw negativity at them, or they think they're yelling, you're yelling at them. You're not
They
getting
don't.
through at all.
And it's having the opposite effect. So have situational and self-awareness as that parent. You're the adult in the room, right? So that's what I taught my daughter. Never give up. If that's still your goal, I'm going to support you, but you need to learn and growth mindset. 4th year, she goes out, made the team. She was all East ECNL, like all New England or all Northeast ECNL. Just absolutely stellar ECNL. ECNL is the highest. Some would argue academy. I don't want to get into this with you. There could be a debate a mile long on this part of the podcast. but basically, academy and ECNL are the highest level you could play as a youth girl in soccer, and every sport has their equivalent. But she flourished. She did fantastic. She never gave up, and I think that was something that her Fordham coach now, the head coach at Fordham, never forgot.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
When she got to that level, are the parents, like, I only seen the high school level of this, and in the high school level, the parents are awful. Like, I mean, yelling at the coaches, yelling at the refs, yelling at the kids on the other team. What's the level there when it gets to that?
My experience doesn't exist. I don't know if it's Fordham. Fordham's a big D1 program, A10 conference. Maybe it's just those parents have gone through it and they're tired, or they're just really they're similar. I don't see any of that.
Really?
None of it. When I tell you none of it. Remember too, and Mark, this is a good question. They're adults now. You're talking about a 19, 20, 21, 22, 23-year-old girl. You let them, right? You got to know when to release them. They've got to make their own choices at that point. There is no more you call the coach up and try to influence them. You should not only should you not do that, you can't do that. Mm-hmm. You are again not the protagonist of now your young kid adult story. It doesn't help them. Right, so I think the parents all get it at that age. Yeah. It's more about
probably
support.
Why they're there.
Yeah, well, great observation. That is exactly why 100,000 girls qualify that play high school soccer a year. There's 400,000 actually, but 100,000 play. They're seniors, essentially, whether it's JUCO or prep or they're normal senior in high school or playing club ball. There's 100,000, basically 100,000 girls a year kind of qualify for being recruited and then commit to a college. There's only so many D1 programs, and there's only so many kids that can be on that. So the recruiting class is actually that smaller 12th grade goes into a recruiting class of what? 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 girls a year per team. So you're really part of that 3%. So there's got to be a differentiating factor, which that is one of the big ones, I believe, because it's about intestinal fortitude. It's about your personality, your core beliefs. Do you blame others? Do you look at yourself introspectively? And do you have a village around you that supports that and that gives those optics, that practices that? Huge, absolutely imperative for that growth.
Go ahead, Steve.
Can I jump in? So one of the more fascinating parts of the book that I found was when you start reflecting on how this experience started affecting you. So, when the tournaments become more and more frequent, longer drives, you're starting to lose a little bit more of your personal time, of your identity, and it's more about her. How hard was that?
It's both. It is glorifying and exciting and amazing. And you're watching. I mean, you can't vicariously live through your kid, but you are. I mean, she's at national tournaments where 200 Division I coaches are watching their game, coming over to it because they're hearing that, Field 5 has an amazing team from Connecticut to amazing team in San Francisco Bay Area, and it's a battle. And you watch this and you're like, oh my God, right? Like, this is exciting, but you do, like, it becomes your life, but that's what you signed up for, to support your kid's dream, right? It's just how far you go with supporting that kid's dream. And you're derailing it as opposed to supporting it and allowing it to take a kind of an organic, yet sort of pre-designed path, which is what this book's about. This book doesn't, I think, Heidi, you actually brought up, is this going to be like a how-to of getting your kid into D1? It's not, but it is. Yeah. It actually is from the psychological angle. It's not from the how do you manipulate or use the system? How do you get into FAFSA? How do you manipulate a coach or convince a coach to give your kid NIL money? How do you deal with the high school coach and the parents, like, manipulating your kid to make all state? Like, that's not what this book was about. And so, yeah, it was a tough time, but it was, glorious. Absolutely glorious.
Learning through failure is another concept that stuck out. And you had mentioned it before that you had made a lot of mistakes. So to me, this was really fascinating because the book talks about how much your child can learn through failure as they're growing up. But I also found it that through your failures that you recognized through this process, the book was actually had a lot more depth to it, which was really cool.
Yeah. I 100%. I think you picked up, all of you maybe, and I know, Sid, you brought it up. This book it ended up being about me towards the end. And it never was supposed to be about my daughter. It was just supposed to be about doing the right thing, but it ended up being a self-interest, an introspection, a reflection on because as I'm writing, I'm just going, that's right, I did this. And I got a pretty good memory. I remember a lot of things back for when she was 4 and very specific scenarios and things like that. So I was just recalling them, especially as I got into probably chapter 7, 8, 9. That's where it really started getting introspective for me.
Yeah.
And it was about learning from my own failures and understanding those. And did I adjust or did I not? I didn't on every one of them. I probably didn't realize I didn't until I wrote the book.
So earlier I was telling you about how I coached Little League with Greg Swanson.
Yeah.
All right. And so before he became a coach with me, I had one season where I did it by myself. And it was not a good year for my team. I don't even think we won a game. But I was fortunate that none of the parents were like the ones that you just described, Mark. The parents were always really cool. And we were playing a team that was really good. And the coach came over to me and said that they were going to try a thing where they were going to steal home. And he was kind of like giving me a heads up that they were going to try it, because he didn't say this, but basically he knew my team sucked. But it was something that they were working on. And so I was like, okay. And I tried to, like, on the fly, get my team prepared, and they weren't. And I think it was a pass ball. They just did nothing right on the play. So anyways, we're in between innings, and I take a walk up to where all the bleachers of my parents are to just kind of say, like, I kind of apologize. Like, I felt like I let the kids down because I kind of let them be embarrassed. And Greg was like, no, don't apologize. He's like, get hard on them if you need to be. And he's like, we got your back. And so there was a part in this book where you're talking about volunteer coaches and that what they're looking for from parents is patience, encouragement, and trust. And that's what Greg gave me that day. I kind of really didn't, I knew that memory always sticks out to me, but this was one of the moments when I like stopped and I was like, holy shit, he's talking exactly about that moment I had with Greg 20 years ago. And then of course, at the end of the season, like I said, I asked Greg to jump on board and help me. And we actually had a lot of fun coaching for another maybe 4 or 5 years. But I found that really great that you were, as you're saying as a parent, just remember that the coaches are volunteering their time and they might not be perfect as well, but they're trying their best. And I found that to be a really kind of neat perspective to throw in there.
Yeah, I think that one's so important, right? Because the book, so this book is designed, it starts with age. It kind of goes through ages, right? I thought that was the process I'm sure we'll get to, but I felt that was the best way to tell this story is following my daughter through the ages. And we talk more about the coaches at the beginning than we do at the end, right? Because they become little young adults, right? They start to operate on their own. There's some things to look out for and like don't get in the coach's business. But at the young age, it is about volunteer coaches. I mean that, and by the way, what is the number one scrutinized thing probably in all sports? At youth sports is the dad, right? Is the volunteer dad. I mean, it's mostly dads out there coaching, right? And God, they just get railed. Like it's
why is your kid playing? Why is my kid play? Yeah.
There's like 50 of those.
Yeah, I can
right?
imagine.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting here going, again, let the kid have fun as they get a little older. Teach your kid to be better. Stop worrying about the coach. Who cares if the coach is letting his kid play a little more? It's not the end all, right? Like, and I just saw that just a lack of respect. And that's where the conservation of energy comes in, right? You're dishing all this negative vibration out. It's going to come back on your kid. That's another thing in the book that it's sort of it's like a parallel to this, or maybe it's like a kickoff to it, which is you put that vibration out, your kid picks it up, right? What you choose to see is what they choose to value. And if all you're seeing is that coach favoring another kid, or why is he playing this kid, or he's clueless, like he's playing everybody, but he's clueless. What do you think your 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old's gonna think?
Yeah,
and that's, by the way, at that age, 5 to 7, 5 to 10, that's foundational. That's gonna be them at 50 years old. That's what they're gonna do. So. Yeah, it's. I watched it over and over again. It was kind of like an homage and a little bit of respect throwing to those volunteers.
Yeah. All right, so let's get a little bit more into the process. So, like I've told you, like I always get fascinated about the process in terms of creating content, right? And writing a book is creating content. What sticks out to you as the most challenging part in that 4 months when you're writing this book? Did you ever struggle to get an idea down, or was there any sort of hurdles that were kind of tough to jump over?
There were hurdles that were tough to jump over. I never struggled with content because it was 15 years of just built up content. What I struggled with, I didn't go on YouTube. I didn't go on Google and learn how to write a book. I just said, I wonder if I could do it. And I thought you could just start writing. I'm not Stephen. I think that's what Stephen King does. I'm pretty sure he just starts to write. Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong. Someone will probably correct that. But there are writers out there that could just write. I have written 2 screenplays, and it's more structure. So you actually have to start with a treatment. You build a treatment into an outline. The outline gets deeper. It's bullets, and they just keep getting deeper and deeper. And it's these short, segmented, like you're building like a script. And that's what I got away from. I'm just trying to write. And by the way, Over the White Line was not actually written until the end. One of my buddies goes, it's like a movie. You got to pull them in from the opening scene. And a lot of times movies will start at the end. So that's how I got the Over the White Line concept. That one I did write straight through, but that was just sort of, I don't know, like 5 pages or 6 pages. I went into a structured outline approach, and then it just keeps building. And then eventually you start putting it to paragraph, because you know what you want to write, or maybe a series of paragraphs. So each of the chapters is probably 10, 15, 20 parts. And I just kept building from there.
Yeah.
Putting in the content.
Well, I find it fascinating. Like, if you never wrote a book before, but because you were so passionate about what you're writing about, you didn't need that experience of being an author. And because I do that whenever I have somebody new on my crew, and we go to a racetrack, I just give them a camera and say, yeah, just go be creative and show me what you got. And then by their footage that they show me the first time they do that, I can kind of gauge how passionate they are, and whether or not they're going to be an asset or somebody that I'm going to have to put more effort in to train them. And so I'm a big believer that if you're really passionate about the subject matter, you can dive in and make it happen, which is clearly what I think you did with this book.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, appreciate it.
I find the association from a coach's perspective, the parent's perspective, find it fascinating. How'd you come up with the idea of having Coach Shannon play a pivotal role in this book and really structuring that out with each chapter? Because I think it's really enjoyable and it's pretty cool.
If I could just piggyback on that, and why was she the one that was going to be the best fit for the book?
I'll start with that one, and then we'll go to the structure of it.
Yeah.
Shannon and I are a lot alike. We're like brother sister, right? Very similar views. Very similar. If she had a kid, she would raise her just like Mac, or him just like Mac. Similar family values. We just hit it off. So it was easy for me to, over a couple of years of knowing her, and then through the recruitment process, it was easy for me to go, I think she's the right voice and is the coach. So I think that answers that question. Yep. I mean, there's probably more depth to that, but
when you know, you know.
You know.
Right.
So, and Steve, your question is that part around the back and forth. That originally we were going to fold it in, like in a paragraph. I could have talked, she could have talked, and I said no. It should be more like a back and forth conversation, but segmented. That then turned into, well, she's the coach. The Sideline, Clipboard and Whistle ended up being the title. And I went, well, wait a minute. She's the clipboard in it. The sideline's the field, and the whistle is the game, right? It's the ref owning the game, running the game. So the whistle is more representative of start, stop, the game, the rules. She's the clipboard. So I said, why don't you have just like a game? You have you got all the kids. In this case, it's the parents. You get them all in a room and you talk before the game. You lay out the game plan. What are we going to do? How are we going to, this is what my expectations are. Then we play the game. That was my part. And then she comes in at the end, or close to the end, and she wraps up from a coach's perspective in coach language, which is, I think, very different than mine. I think you see two very different voices.
For sure.
Yeah, right?
Which helps break this. I think it effectively breaks
it keeps
the story
me shut up, too. Like, enough about
exactly.
this guy. Yeah. This guy, Jesus.
That's
like,
what I was thinking.
Holy God,
Well, no,
right?
I think...
Like, chapter 1, you're like, dude.
Just keep going on and on.
God, I get it. Look, energy. Oh, it's all
He's a
around us
Sherpa.
all the time. Look at me. I'm a Sherpa. So she ends the chapter with a sort of post game. How'd we do? Right? Like as a coach, like you want that coach to be nurturant. You're delivering you're not only teaching, but you're mentoring. Well, you're coaching, right? Coaching's different than mentoring, which is different than a teacher, right? Those are very different things, and they're different words for that reason. So that's how that structure came up.
It's also like a recap.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's what we've been talking about.
Yep.
And
And
let's kind
to
of
get
pull
her
it together.
perspective on it was,
Yeah.
I thought it was really good.
Oh, she's a great coach, and she's honest and transparent and gets it. I mean, she's young. She's younger than me. She could be my daughter. She also played D1. She played very high level D1. She won a national championship at Bridgeport.
Wow.
When they won the D2 championship, she played for Coach Magnus, who's Mackey's coach now. So it just worked. Like everything, like the universe aligned, like the planets aligned. So
Yeah, I think it just gives the story so much credence having, her perspective as well as yours, because I think you've captured the entire experience. So it was, it's fascinating, and the way you structured it, I think is just really, really effective.
I found that Coach Shannon actually said that coaches look at that. They see the parent who is doing this, or who's going to the coach, who's speaking for their child. That the recruiters see that, and that was coming from her was.
I actually can't remember this, and I can't believe I'll admit it, because you learn from your mistakes, and you should be honest, right?
No.
Does she get no? Does she get into in the book talking about you inherit the family? And
Yes.
she does,
To a
right?
degree. Very
I
much
couldn't
so.
remember if we
Very
talked
much
about it,
so.
if we
Yeah.
wrote it. So later, when the recruiting chapter starts, that's a thing. That is a thing. You
we don't
inherit
want a
the family.
deal.
Nope, because you get a package deal. You get a package deal with the kid. You inherit the family. And I have witnessed and I know of kids not getting recruited by their favorite team, their favorite college or whatever university, because the coach had insight.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Just it's not going to work for you. It's having so many. I've watched so many adults. Kids have the excuse. So many adults do not understand the implications of their actions. And that's where the law of conservation of energy comes in. What you put out, you're going to get back. It's either going to come back on you or your kid or someone in your family, your mortgage, your car, whatever. It's going to come back. It does. It has to go somewhere. Right. So, yeah. You even see me getting amped up about it.
Yeah.
I wasn't even thinking of it in those terms until you laid it out in the book. But I always would look at these kids who you can tell are just embarrassed by their parents losing it on the sideline, yelling at the coach or yelling at the kids. And you had a story in the book about an athlete, a young girl who the parent was going crazy and afterwards yelled something at her, and right in front of everyone, she took her cleats off or something and said, she kind of gave it back to him. And you don't want to see that in a relationship, but I was like, good for her reading that story.
It was great. There are two, Heidi, there are two kids. There's two kids that happen that are produced from that behavior. The kid that is completely embarrassed, like you said, and turns and just shelters themselves and goes into a cocoon. And look, that has long-term implications. You imagine that person at work, they're learning through the foundational times of their life where they're the most impressionable, where the waves going into their brain are actually hardwiring their brain at that age. The other kid, the other kid becomes that parent. And now the kid is yelling at the coach. The kid is doing these things, yelling at another, a teammate, right? It happens. It's actually, I would say, more often than not.
Oh, yeah.
And neither reaction, whether they're shutting down or whether they're becoming that parent, neither one is going to get them ahead.
Neither one is not good. It's not good for them and anybody around them.
We had a kid on my Little League team. He was an amazing athlete, and his parents were polar opposites. His father would watch the game basically in silence at the center field fence. He would always come up to me and Steve and say, good job, coach, or whatever. And his mom would stand outside the dugout and just scream the dumbest stuff to him. He'd be pitching and she'd be going, "I'll give you $100 if you strike him out." And he'd be like, "What? Shut your mouth."
How do I pitch for that, Mom?
Seriously. But I remember one time Steve went out to talk to him because he was erratic and he threw gas. And back then, Waterford Little League was still 9 to 12, so I think he was about to face a 9-year-old who was terrified. Anyways, Steve went out to talk to him, and the kid's like, Steve's like, what's the matter? And he's like, "Oh, my mom's just bothering me. I wish she wouldn't be at the fence." And he's just like,
I will say, you remind me, we could talk Little League stories forever. The opposite family, one of the greatest families on the history of the planet.
Thank you.
Yes.
"Okay."
Fletchers.
The Munsters?
Fletchers. The Fletchers. Unbelievable people. Jeff threw gas.
Oh yeah, I was terrified to face him.
Terrified to face him. The nicest guy.
Yeah.
He would come up, "Hey man, you all right?" Just again, you have that side of the story too. But you were talking about throwing gas. I'm like, I just remember Jeff Fletcher just throwing gas.
Yeah, he was legendary.
Shout out to Jeff.
Yeah, he was legendary.
Shout out to Jeff.
Waterford
Jeff
Little League
never
South.
thought his name was going to be said in this podcast.
All right.
By the way, went on to become an amazing playwright, right? Screenwriter,
Yeah.
right?
Won an Oscar, didn't he?
Won an
Won
Oscar.
an Oscar.
Yeah.
By the way, I saw him. Have I told you guys this story? I saw him at Sunset Ribs. I had just gotten out of New England Tech. I got a video production degree, and he just graduated NYU Film School.
Oh yeah, he's a big deal.
So we're talking, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm heading out to the West Coast." And I said, "Oh," and we were just chit-chatting because he's a super nice guy, right? And I said something to him like, "Yeah, I guess maybe next time I'll see you be on the Oscars or something." And
Oh my God, that's
Jeff,
hilarious.
and Jeff being super humble was like, "Get out of here, whatever, nice seeing you, whatever." And then that was really the last time that I saw him.
And Jeff's character, he'd say the same thing to you now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just a good dude.
He's a really good guy. Okay, so 2-part question.
Yep.
What compelled you to put the letter to your daughter at the end of the book, and what does she think about the book?
All right. That was the end of the catharsis, right? Cathartic reflection. It was not something I planned to do. I just sat down and wrote it when I was done. I remember finishing the chapter 10, and I went, there's no way this should be done. So I need an epilogue. And the epilogue ended up being the letter. And I felt she was due that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you wanted all the readers to cry.
And by the way,
As a 53-year-old man.
ugly
cry.
crying.
Yeah.
I had people who bought the book early on at work, and these are like VP, SVPs, just great guys, great ladies, texting me on a Saturday with a picture of that page going, dude, Saturday morning, you got me bawling. My family's not even up yet, right? And this is what you're doing, right? Like, thanks a lot. Yeah, just people just like having to move the book away from it. But I mean, like, that's raw. That wasn't intended to do that. I wasn't, but I felt, but I want you to feel something when you read the book, like, because that chapter or the epilogue, I have a relationship with my daughter.
That's one of the
key.
goals.
That's the goal. It's how do you raise it? This is not an easy path.
Right.
This takes a village of people and constant planning, and you're screwing up, and you're succeeding, and you're planning, and then you're learning. The whole village has to do it, right? Mentors, coaches, the parents, brother, sister. Think about the brothers and sisters that aren't on that path. They have to be part of this. They're the ones in the car when that's happening. Like, you're going to Arizona,
Right.
right? So, the last word's regret. I did not want to have regret. And I think after I wrote that, I said I didn't have regret. I still have my daughter still texts me when she has an issue, when she has a problem. I mean, Steve, right? You've met my daughter countless. I mean, you know my daughter very well. I don't think there's any ill will. Will she tell stories? Probably.
And she has quite a few.
You've
given her a lot of ammo.
I gave her a lot of ammo, but I think she knew why. And I think if you are going to screw up, it better be with best intent. It can't be because you're vicariously living through them, and because you missed out, or you didn't miss out and you did it, but you want that for them. That's not best intent. That's not best intent.
So has she read the book?
She has. She read it as I was writing it. I gave the letter to her when it was done. She is, Steve, stoic. Is my daughter, she's stoic, right? Like, she is stoic.
Yeah.
She's like, I go, well, read the last 3 chapters, and they were 9, 10 epilogue, not 8, 9, 10. And my wife, Amy, gave it to her and said, read this. I hear nothing. I've had grown-ass men read that and tell me, like, dude, I didn't read that, right? I told you. Nothing. She goes away to school. I'm like, wow, she left the house and made not like, when you're like, I'm not the guy that goes, oh, look at this thing I made. You should, look at it. You should be amazed by it. I'm not that guy. That letter, I was expecting to hear some reaction. And I found out she later, she went to school. She showed that letter to everybody.
Oh, that's cool.
All the girls were like, wow, like reading it, like thinking it was amazing. So I needed some type of positive affirmation.
Well, you laid it all out there.
Yeah,
I'm sure that was.
I did. Yeah, I put it all out there, right? Like, come on, give me some credit. And she did.
So I'd like to go back to almost the very beginning of when you started speaking tonight, and you said that your daughter was 4 when she first started playing soccer.
Yeah,
and it was another adult that pointed to her and said she's going to be D1.
His own daughter. It was his own daughter.
His own.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Sorry,
okay.
I may
No,
not have made that.
I was confused by it.
Yeah,
Because I
I
wanted to
think
know
you
what-
probably thought it was my.
Yeah.
I thought
His
someone
own
was
daughter.
seeing something in your daughter, and I.
Well, my daughter was playing with her hair, looking around. Every once in a while would like poke at the ball, had no idea what she was doing. A couple of the girls on the team were like chickens with their heads cut off. I mean, they were wired for it, right? I get what you're saying when you see that difference, and it extends into different age groups, like all the way to 9. But for you to look at that and translate that and transfer that and progress that, predict that, that's going to be a D1 athlete. I just think you just look at that and it speaks volumes. You know, you just go, wow, that girl's going to have an interesting upkeep, you know, raising.
So is Mac is she in college right now?
Yes.
And she's in what year is she in?
She is a sophomore.
She's a sophomore? Yep. Doing good?
She's doing well.
Yeah.
She got a 3.6 her first year. The one thing that soccer did many things for her, but one thing Fordham's that is an academic. I mean, that's a great school. I can't say enough about that school. I don't even know how this is going to go down. Should my daughter, if she did not have soccer, got into Fordham academically? No, my daughter was a good student. They take, come on, guys. We know how college works, right? There's elite institutions. They take the elite of the elite. You better have a separating factor. Soccer got her a stronger look into that school. Would she have got in? Maybe. I'm not going to go there, but soccer secured it.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that it pays off when you're well-rounded and you hedge and you learn a lot of different things and you have something to speak about and you have something to show the world. The world listens, right? And her world at that time was getting into college and playing. And that's what it did for her. And, you know, Fordham being the academic institution it is, weed out courses freshman year. She's an only child. She was away for the first time ever, had to make new friends at a very tough academic school. And she played soccer full time, got, 700 minutes or whatever, played. That's a full-time job. That's 2 full-time jobs. And your social life a little bit. She nailed it. I couldn't believe it, but that's the prep. That's what you're doing. That's what, whether it's athletics, whether it's you're in the band, whether it's you're doing theater, it teaches those things. It's not enough in today's day and age just to only focus on one thing. You got to be a little more well-rounded than that, because it's not so much that you're able to show you have skills. Those skills all work with each other so you can survive in everything you do and really do well in it. And
I was going to say that athletics in general for kids, I think it does build something there. The friendships, the learn how to be loyal to someone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Not all. I mean, like you said, band.
Yeah.
Other than sitting home and playing video games like a lot of kids are doing these days, I think you need that sport.
Yeah, team building, all that. Right, yeah.
And
I think a lot of, I thought this reading the book, there was a lot of things that you were writing about that were just
life lessons.
Yeah, just life lessons.
Yeah.
Just even outside of sports, they were applicable to other things in life at any age, really.
Any parent could read this book and get something out of it, I think.
I think so.
I do want to, I forgot about one more thing. The number jersey, getting your jersey number. And again, this made me put the book down and just think back to my childhood, because, in my family, it was DiMaggio number 5. I always wanted number 5, and I didn't get it until I was a 12-year-old in Little League, and I felt like it was almost like I felt like I paid my dues when I finally got it. But that just kind of like struck to me that there was even a lesson in there, and just how to accept the fact that you didn't get what you want. And how to deal with that was an important lesson.
We had that 2 or 3 times with Mac. She started with 8, then went to 12, then 20. My wife's a very good athlete. She was a very high-end softball player, like high-level softball.
Well, that explains it.
Yeah. You thought my daughter got that different?
No, I didn't. I was wondering.
Okay. But you were wondering, and
Yeah.
now it's
okay.
Now it's you could rest now.
Good.
She wanted her mom's number, right? And she didn't get it, and that's to a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Like, that's
Devastating.
everything. And it's amazing what they take pride in or what they value, right? But again, what you choose to notice, they value. So where are they getting that from? And how do you coach or parent something in and out of a child on what is really worth it, and how do you pick your battles for a longer, right? Like, you may get defeated now, but you have victory later. And is that really something that you should care that much about and expend that energy on? or should you be focused more in this space and then dominate and then get the number back, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's the marshmallow, right? You guys are familiar with the marshmallow quotient, emotional quotient, right? Put a bunch of kids in a room, stick the marshmallow in the middle, say, hey, if you guys, no one eats that marshmallow, you all will get, when I come back and it's still there, I will give everybody a treat and you'll all get marshmallows, right? Is the marshmallow there when they get back? That's emotional quotient, right? So you get
No, I cut it up in 12 pieces, and we each took a piece.
You would cut a deal.
Or you could have each had one to yourself if you just waited.
Yeah, but I had to wait. I need that sugar hit right now, baby.
There you go.
Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah.
So another thing that I just really loved was the whole idea of elevating everything around you. And in sports, it's very easy to say, you're there to help the team. Of course, there's some personal things that you want from it, but the emotional intelligence part of it ties in with that, because I'm always saying emotional intelligence is just grossly underrated, undervalued, especially in the world we live in, this divided world that we live in right now. And I think coaches look at that. And it's just a great way to live and to succeed in life, is to try to elevate people around you and the situation around you. That was a great one. And the Sherpa parent part was amazing, because with my son growing up, I saw so many helicopter parents, but then it became steamroller parents, where they just wanted to clear all obstacles so their children wouldn't ever feel disappointment. And you don't grow that way.
Nope.
My husband is always saying how failure is the best teacher. That's how you're going to learn. That's how you're going to grow. You have to put yourself out there and try. You're not always going to succeed. But if your child has, or you can help them have the grit and determination, that's how they're going to get to the end goal.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. The rising waters raise all ships, right? In a team sport, it serves you no purpose to try to outshine everybody on your team. The team needs to, Gretzky needed a team. Jordan needed a team. Like, these guys, no matter how good you are in a team sport, you cannot elevate yourself without raising everybody else. That goes for the parent as well. Watch the parents on the sideline. I watched them. Are they only screaming for their kid? And that's two ways, right? Screaming at them or for them. And then, or are they cheering the other kids on? Because I can assure you, the kids notice who's cheering for them. And you notice the parents that are only cheering for their kid and actually get jealous and angry when another kid scores a goal or a basket or whatever it is, right? Hits a home run. It's crazy. It's just so antithetical, right? That's the only word I could. It's antithetical to the success of your own child and the child being successful. It doesn't make sense. It is so negative, and it has such an opposite effect every time. Like, it never works. So why do we keep repeating it as a society? Like, what is it in us that when we have a kid or when we're, whatever it is, I don't know what it is that makes people do that, because it never works. It just doesn't work.
I think there's just not an understanding that that's not that you're not putting positive out there. You think you are. You think you're just being supportive of your child, but that's not how it's working.
Yeah.
That
And
reminds
sometimes
me
it's
of
almost like they're like following their favorite football team. Like, the things I say to the TV when the Dallas Cowboys are playing is pretty bad. But I think maybe as a parent, they're a fan too, and they're almost putting that out there. Not that it's an excuse. They're still dumb for doing it, but there is some of that, like that fanship of it too, where
You're spot on.
Almost going over the top.
Yep. Spot. Well, I mean, look, it's a arena. Go back to ancient Rome, gladiators. Sports has been around forever, right? The Olympics in ancient Greece. Sports gets the best and the worst from people. That type of competition.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, and I think you actually even touched on this in the letter at the end. But why do you think Mac was so successful? Because even though the book is great, and like Mark said, you wish that you had this as a guide, right? When Terrence was younger,
for sure.
And right, and you're saying that you made a lot of mistakes and failed in a lot of ways. So what was how come Mac was still so successful and able to get to the D1 level?
Her.
Yeah. And you did you touch on that in the letter at the end.
It's her.
Yeah. That's
She's
a
just
pretty
special kid.
I was just going to say that's a pretty remarkable. That's a remarkable trait on her part. That those kind of faults that you had along the way.
Yeah, that she had me as a dad and still made it. No, you're not saying it. I am. I'll take it out of your mouth. I'm good.
Yeah, but we're all thinking it.
You're all.
Well, and not to take any credit away from her, but you and your wife, it sounds like, did model for her. You know, yeah, it wasn't so great maybe that I did that, or that wasn't the best I could do, but the growth mindset of just doing better. You didn't have to talk about it. You just did better.
Yeah, tried. Yep. Not in every case, but I think most. I mean, I don't think you can have the results we have of just not just her getting into college, right? Who she is as a person. I mean, Steve, you know her really well. I mean, she's a good person. She's strong. She's strong-minded. Sometimes maybe to a fault sometimes, but
I wonder where she gets that from.
Yeah, that's 19, 20 years old. Well, that's the old me, right? The new me is like, whatever you want to do, right? But she's 19, 20. Of course she's going to have that, machismo, like, I don't, she just doesn't know yet. But the core values of being a human being, she has them. And I see it on who she's recently attracted as friends. These girls are unbelievable. This whole team, like this coach did such an amazing job recruiting this team. And that's the other, I mean, we can play Billy Bean ball all we want, right? I mean, you got to have a good team in team sports. They have to get along. They have to all complement each other. You can't have every single same skill set and none of they all have to balance. And these are remarkable young women. They really are. And Mac is right in the thick of it. So to me, that was the most important thing of her upbringing at my house, in my home. Is that it wasn't so much she made D1 and she made her goal. I mean, that's great. How many people achieve that type of goal? 3% a year. That's it.
Yeah.
It's a low number. It's not winning the lotto, but it's there. It's that she is going to build. She has the capacity to build lifelong friendships. I mean, some of us have been friends in here for years. I mean, I've got friends that are, how old am I? 54.
Man, you're old.
I'm old. 44 years, right? My daughter is going to have that ability. My wife has friends, and she's been in second grade, right? That's important.
I have one note that I made.
Okay.
I took
Here
it.
we go.
You had a spelling error on page 562.
She will point that out.
There's two notes. One,
right.
I'm not a big fan of the title because it was really hard for me at my advanced age to remember.
You have no idea how much we debated that title.
It makes sense, especially the way you explained it.
I know. I agree.
And the other thing, it's not a note. I took a direct quote from the book because I didn't want to get it wrong. And it's a perspective that I'm going to carry with me because it just clicked. And it's about comparison. So I'm going to read it if I can. Every comparison is an opportunity for emotional growth, perspective, and healthy self-esteem. Treat comparisons not as a threat, but as a vital learning tool for your child's emotional toolkit. And that's how you build not just a soccer player, but a resilient human being.
Yep.
I paraphrased the last bit just a little. But
Yeah. What'd you think? What are you taking away from that?
I think that everybody at some point or another compares themselves to others, especially in that environment. And I think it's very natural for parents to say, no, you're just as good, but looking at it that way, I think even it's natural for people to compare themselves, even as adults, to other people. And it's kind of a dead-end game in a lot of ways. But I've taken shame from it when I realized, I was comparing myself to that person. And then I just feel really bad about it.
You're not that person. You're right. You're totally right.
Yeah. But being able to say, hey, look at it. It's a learning tool for you. It's not wrong to feel that way. You don't want to go around doing that all the time, but it's not wrong. What can you learn from it? What is it about that person that you want to build in yourself? That's a really valuable perspective.
That's the flip. You flipped it. Yeah. Tom Brady goes through this whole thing. He said,
Boo.
I wasn't, boo. He wasn't getting playtime. He was only getting 4 snaps in practice or something. And he kept comparing himself to the starting quarterback. And he said it was the day, I'm going to misquote him, but it's essentially the day I stopped comparing myself to him and did what I needed to do to get more snaps. And then if I got 4 snaps on Monday, I wanted 6 on Tuesday, I wanted 8 on Wednesday. And he said that's growth mindset, right? It's a dead end comparing. it stalls you, it inhibits your growth. And yeah, I mean that's a known fact. But again, so many people don't employ it. They don't employ it. My daughter does that a lot. Yeah, I do it. I compare myself to people at work. We just do it, but you have to flip it, like you said. What can I learn from it? What's the difference? That's fine. I can see some things through observation, through a different set of optics or lens. I can maybe incorporate, but don't compare.
Right.
It's observation. It's not comparison. Those are different things.
Yeah.
Comparison comes after observation. Observe and then grow. Don't observe and compare.
Well, and literally grow, because
Yeah.
you mention it in the book where you have kids who may not have been developed fully yet, competing against kids that are of similar ages that have gone through their growth spurt, that are maturing physically. And so, yeah, it might be tough to not compare yourself to this kid, but guess what? In 2 years, you might be bigger, stronger, and faster.
Yeah.
It's just your time.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
But don't give up.
Good, Mark.
Don't
Don't
give
get
up.
don't get
Do
too
not give
frustrated.
up. Yeah.
So I wrote down 2 things here I just wanted to bring up.
Everybody's got 2 things. Okay.
The glasses are on to this.
They
is
are.
serious
Yeah,
time.
this is a
Whoa.
side of Mark. I've
These
seen
2 things
in
I
a
took
while.
out.
Lee
Settle
Harvey.
The 3 G's.
Yep.
Grace,
Yep.
when things are hard. Grit, when things feel unfair. And gratitude for the chances to compete really stood out to me. I thought that was something special that you wrote down there.
Yeah. You got to have balance of those 3 and never lose sight of one of them.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then the other one I liked was if you're grounded, they will fly.
Yep. Yep.
That quote says it all.
Yep.
As a parent, if
Yeah.
you're grounded, your child will fly.
I was thinking of a
That's-
kite analogy. I was going to go into a kite analogy on that one. And because, how do you fly a kite, right? You have to, the string has to be sturdy. The kite, the kite's the kite. But you have to hold the kite. You have to guide the kite. You have to be on solid ground in order for that kite to fly. And I was going to think of an analogy, but I think that was Shannon and I talking about that one. That one's huge because it goes back to, if again, what you choose to value, they notice, or what you choose to notice, they value. If you're noticing things that aren't grounded in growth or tenacity and grit, and stop comparing yourself and stop blaming others, that's not good. That's not grounded. And they are you. I mean, for those of us that have kids, right? They're you until they're till they're old, right? But definitely, like, my daughter is still us. Like, I see her, like I see me in her. And I see, like, wow, like, where'd she get that from? And I reflect, like, I'll just go, where'd she get that from? What did she do there? Why did she do that? Where did that come from? And I'm like, oh yeah, well, I kind of do that. Or my wife does that.
Yeah.
I'll just blame my wife.
Well, listen, man, this was really fun to have you in and talk about this. It was, I think we were all really just surprised at how in depth and what an actual fun read that this is. And it's something that you can learn from, but it's really enjoyable. It's really captivating the way that you and Shannon wrote it. So I wish you the best of luck with it.
Thank you.
Tell us where people can get it.
They can get it on Amazon. They just search for the Sideline, the Clipboard, and the Whistle. I am putting an audiobook together, but I just learned that AI voice, Audible doesn't accept that.
Really?
So I got to get someone to read it. So a buddy of mine's going to read it.
Why don't
He
you
sounds
read
a
it?
little more like Casey. I don't think I have a good voice.
You know who needs to read this book.
Christopher
Walken.
I mean,
Come on.
he's got nothing else to do, right?
I thought Steve was trying to get himself another job.
How about we read Shannon's part in Christopher Walken's voice?
Oh, dude, that was
I would
The
listen to
Sideline,
anything.
the
in that
Clipboard,
voice.
and the Whistle. I know this guy. He talks about mindset
and
growth.
grit.
What does he know about grit?
Is this a one-off passion project for you, or would you entertain writing
I'm actually writing another book right now.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Anything you can share with us, or it's going to keep it under wraps for now?
I know. I'll leak it a little bit.
It's breaking news
A
right
little
here.
sprinkle. I'll tell you, it's about wishes and aspirations, and how those are structured into society versus the individual. Goes way back to the concept of a wish and aspiration, and how they're written into literature, and how they can generate mob rule, or the wish of a nation versus the wish of a family versus wish of an individual, and what effects that has on individuals, nations, states, whatever, theology or religion, could be anything. So I'm formulating kind of a threaded path through that is a little bit fiction, is a little bit nonfiction.
All right, cool. Keep
Nice.
us posted. If we are fortunate enough to still be doing the podcast, maybe we'll have you in when you're done with that one. We'll do it all again.
I want to do part 2 of this, so it's told from the kid's view. So I was going to write it with my daughter when she graduates college. So it was going to be called The Pitch, The Goal, and so I can't remember. We had 3 words for it, but it's from the kid's view, which is sort of the opposite of those 3. So it's not from a coach's. It's like it's the kids on the field, and it's told through their lens and how they look back at all these things that are talking about. Do they work? Like it, we were going to interview a bunch of kids that played sports, and I wanted all sports. I didn't want to make it just about soccer.
Right.
And, talk to them about these theories and whose parents actually did them or mixed or not, and what are the effects of that, but told in a humorous. I mean, I think there was a lot of humor in this book too.
Yeah, for sure.
Did a great job.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I don't know. My daughter and I are talking about it.
Yeah,
Great.
that sounds cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you.
man.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate
Thank you,
coming
man.
in.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Great seeing everybody. Thank you.